Hello. So today I want to talk about a major contributing factor to living a miserable life. And that is when we get stuck in our ego. And what I mean by that, let me just explain. So we have the left-hand side of our brain and the right-hand side of our brain. Now, our left-hand side of the brain it relates to our human self, our physical being. So we're here in the physical world as a human. The right side of our brain relates to our soul self. It is our intuition. It is how we connect to source energy. It is how we connect to a higher power. It is the fact that we are a spirit here having a human experience. Now, where we go wrong here on Earth, and I think there's so many different varying factors in our environment that contribute to this. But when we get caught in our ego, which is our human self, the left side of our brain, that is when we become trapped in the misery of our own mind. It's like we get stuck on a hamster wheel and we get caught, trapped in our mind, where our mind just goes over and over and over. Now, of course, there's lots of different things that lead to misery, traumas, grief, all sorts of things, okay? But that aside, I'm talking about the misery we create in the loop of our own mind. And when I say there's environmental factors, there are foods that contribute to us being trapped in this mental loop. So we are vibrational beings. We are made up of energy. And when you eat bad processed foods, it lowers your vibration as an energetic being. And this contributes to poor mental health. If you are not exercising, you are also trapped in a cycle of poor mental health, because we know when we move our body, we are freeing up our energy and we are contributing to raising our vibration and having a healthy mind. Now, also, we get stuck in identifying with our thoughts. We get stuck in trying to figure everything out in our mind. And in actual fact, to live a true happy life, we have to stop being up here and start being in here. Now, there's also other, I think, external influences that interfere with us being trapped in this loop. And that is things like our education system. It predominantly encourages left brain thinking activity, and it demonizes right brain thinking activities. We are told that right brain thinking activities are just fluff. They're the arty-farty activities that we should not take seriously. And everything is set up to promote left brain thinking. Now, the problem with this is that left and right brain thinking are equally important. And if one is more dominant than the other, if one is overloaded more than the other, we do not have a balance. Our brain is designed to work in synergy with each other. And at different points, depending on what tasks or what we're doing, one side of the brain will step up and take the leading role. But it doesn't mean that the other part isn't there doing its role, because the two are intertwined, right? So left brain thinking talks about logic, but the issue with that is your right brain, that actually allows you to see things from a holistic point of view. So if you have shut down the right side of your brain and you are just thinking with the left side of your brain, you actually don't have logic, because you cannot see things from a holistic point of view. You are unable to connect the dots. If you just use left side of the brain, you will see certain events and circumstances as random events, and you'll be incapable of connecting the dots through the use of your right brain. And you will not be able to see a holistic viewpoint, which means you do not have logic, because you do not have a full picture of what's really going on. So this is another way, by shutting down the mechanism of the right side of the brain. And society in general sort of demonizes the right side of the brain. You know, you have to fight really hard to get right brain activities to be taken seriously. And with that comes, another entrapment in our brain. We're caught in our brain. We're not linking into our intuition, our soul self, if the right side of the brain isn't getting utilized. So then we're stuck in the human side where we do not see the higher picture. And if we don't see the higher picture, of course we're going to feel miserable because all we can see is this loop that we're trapped in our brain, loop of miserable thoughts. And the other thing here is when it comes to true inner happiness, a lot of that comes from trusting that you are safe, trusting that the universe or God or whoever you believe in has your back and everything's going to work out. If you don't have access to that through the right side of your brain, if you don't have that soul connection, things are going to seem really dire. The ego also only goes by past experience, okay? So here becomes a really big mental entrapment is we start to lose faith in ourselves. Let's say we've had, 5 failed businesses and we start another one. And we tell ourselves, well, our ego tells us, based on past experience, every time I've set up a business, it has failed. And the ego knows best, and the ego wants to keep me safe. That's the ego's job in the fight or flight mode. So the ego is going to keep me safe based on its knowledge from the past. It doesn't have any knowledge of the present or the future, right? So the ego will convince us, oh, there's no point you doing this next business. It's going to be a failure. You will fail. You will not succeed. And the issue is that the ego voice, or some call it the monkey, the chimp voice, and it's on a loop and it just goes around and around and it tells us all these really negative things based on past experience. And that's a really dangerous cycle to be in because who cares if you failed at a business 5 times prior? It doesn't mean that this one that you're going to start isn't going to be the successful one, right? We don't know because the future is unwritten. But herein lies the dangerous part. If you take on what your ego is telling you, that you are going to fail at this 5th business, you will take that on and believe it, and you will take it on as truth. And what you believe becomes your reality. Right? So are you starting to see now how we get stuck in a vicious cycle of our ego, our mind, right? And so we need to start having better self-talk to ourselves to get out of this loop. We need to start enhancing right brain activities so that we are connected to our soul self, our intuition, because at the end of the day, no one knows better than us. And you'll know when you talk to yourself in your mind, there's often 2 or 3 voices going on, isn't there? That you'll go, oh, I can do this. And then your ego voice will go, no, you can't, right? And then you might hear another, but your instincts, your gut might be telling you, oh, but I think that I can. Why not give it a go, right? So you've got 3 voices going on internally. Now, what happens when you're stuck in this miserable ego loop in your mind is that the ego voice is louder and the ego voice always wins out. You need to train yourself, which can be hard, and you may need to go and do some energetic healing work first. Quite possibly you will need to do that first, because I also believe it's really hard to change your mind. Everyone talks about mindset, and I'm a big advocate for mindset, but not if your energy is blocked or isn't right. You must work on clearing your energy, clearing your chakras, clearing your aura. When you do that, when you make the energy free flowing, then the mindset work will be able to take hold. So then you start working on your mind. You start working on quietening down the left side of your brain, your human self, your ego. And every time your ego jumps in and goes, no, you can't do this. No, you're going to fail. Then you override it and you step up and you go, no, that's my ego talking, right? My inner being, my soul self, my connection to my higher self knows better. And my intuition is telling me that I can do this. And that's the voice I'm going to choose to believe. That's the voice I'm going to start listening to. And every time you hear that ego voice come up, I want you to name it, whether it's out loud or just in your mind, and go, no, ego, my ego voice, you're not winning. You have no power over me anymore. My higher self knows better for me, okay? Not you, ego mind. So just start noticing it. I'm not expecting that you're going to master this straight away. It's taken me a long, long time to get to this point. And as I said, I had to do a lot of energetic work first, also a lot of therapy with my mental health and all that. It's a holistic approach. But even if you're not in the right mindset or the right fertile ground to be able to override this ego mind yet, just start observing, right? Because the second you start observing it and going, oh, that's my ego, you're breaking the cycle, you're breaking that hamster wheel, and you're causing a disruption, which can create a new neural pathway to form new beliefs. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. We'll talk about this some more in future videos. I'm Stacey Sellers from the Real Life Ready Academy, and I will catch you in the next video.